Hi Submarine friends. Well, you can tell I'm back inside the submarine. Now here's the good news. Everything is done on the outside of the submarine. I even yesterday welded on some new attachment points for tying it to the trailer, because when I removed the air tanks and the aft end, I cut out a section of ballast tank hull to lighten the submarine, and that's where the attachment points were, so I had to put new attachment points on. And I do realize that I have to make a change inside the submarine now. It's just a quick change. First of all, I bought this plug because the airline now can be capped off that came from the rear air tanks because they're deleted. And I have a hull stop valve there, of course, but I don't want to depend on a valve. Something gets bumped or something, it could open and whatever. So I bought a plug for that this morning. And this cap is for the hydraulic tank, and I'm putting it on right now, so that's done. That's just so that the air doesn't breathe into the occupant space. It goes into that bladder that I installed, so when the hydraulic oil warms up, it expands, and I don't want that expanded air in there to come into the hull because there's hydrocarbons in that air, so it goes into an expanding bladder under the floor. So I just took care of that. That's how easy that was. But what I do have to change is this is now the air that is required to blow the ballast tanks unless I pump it. So when I'm on the bottom of the lake, I will likely give a shot of air to surface the submarine. Then when I'm at the surface, I will switch over and just use a pump, the air compressor I should say, to pump air into the forward and aft ballast tank. That just saves consuming the high pressure air. So, you give it one little squirt of air and she comes up. And then as soon as you're sitting on the surface, you can open a vent valve in the hatch to let air in, so the compressor can then move that air into the ballast tanks. The second thing that I will do when I surface is I will pump the water out of the bladder that's in the bottom of the sub right here. Now, if I was on the bottom using the thrusters and whatnot, I may be low on battery power. So what I'll do then is I will start the engine when I'm at the surface, as long as I'm surfaced high enough so that the exhaust is clear, which won't take much because it's right at the hatch level, and the air intake right here needs to be high enough so that I don't suck water in through this big intake. So I have options, and I'm going to carry a battery in here that's not even connected. It's just going to ride in the back of the hull back here, out of the way, fully charged battery, so that if I end up spending too much time on the bottom and depleted my batteries and I don't have enough juice to start the engine, I could have a problem. Mind you, that won't happen because when I dive, I switch to the separate battery bank, and the engine has its own dedicated battery. So as long as that battery is healthy, which I'm questioning now, I'm not sure if this battery is so great. I just noticed now it's only got 10 volts in it. I actually just started the engine just a minute ago to make sure that everything is cool with it still. And it's fired right up. Well, actually, I screwed up. I did not open the valve up here to let the exhaust out. So it started for a second and then it was trying to leak exhaust in here because this valve was shut. So back to this air tank. What do I have to do? I have a quick connector on it that feeds the air system, and the reason for this system is this was an emergency air supply for the ballast. Well, it's no longer emergency. Now it is the primary surfacing solution. So that means I just turned it on to test it, and it's out of air. I left it on. by accident. I left it on. And so this quick connector, I think is leaking because, it's not real high quality. It's just like off a compressor in your shop. That's no good. I cannot have air leaks inside because a small air leak will increase the internal pressure. When you increase the internal pressure, it fools you into thinking that your life support system is not working properly, because the life support system functions on internal air pressure. So as long as the internal air pressure stays exactly the same all the time, that means that the oxygen you're consuming, which is converted into CO2, the CO2 is removed from the atmosphere at the same rate that you're consuming it. So the pressure never changes. So if your pressure is increasing, that's going to trick you into thinking you're overfeeding oxygen, because you're feeding in oxygen under pressure into the environment to breathe. So it's very important that you don't have air leaks. It's really important. It's so important that I carry a bottle of soapy water to squirt on fittings before a day of diving. Every dive, I air test all the connections to make sure there's no leak, because that is really bad news. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to eliminate that quick connect, and I'm going to plumb it directly into the regulator, bypassing any quick connect, and I'll put a proper high pressure line from here to the regulator. Even though it's not high pressure, it doesn't matter. Actually, I guess I don't have to. I can just undo this fitting that goes into that's what I'll do. I'll just screw that fitting into the regulator. So if I want to ditch from the submarine, I need to swap tanks out. If I've used up the air in this tank trying to surface and I can't surface because the submarine is entangled, then I'll carry 2 extra bottles in here. I've got tons of storage space up front. I can store 6 tanks up there if I want to, but I'll just store a couple of tanks up there for backup. And I'm going to have to put a ball valve in my emergency breathing regulator, because I want to leave this air turned on all the time, so that let's say there's smoke in the submarine. Well, I'm sitting in the pilot's seat looking around, enjoying the view, and now I've got smoke in here. I don't want to be dicking around turning this tank on. I want to be able to just blast air into those ballast tanks and do an emergency ascent. So that means this tank needs to be turned on at the start of a dive and turned off at the end of a dive. And then I've got a gauge right here so that I can and I positioned it right there on purpose. Let me just turn this camera. So this gauge is deliberately on that angle in that position. So from the driver's seat, pilot's seat, I can just glance down and I can see that this pressure is always in the same spot. So this way I can assure that I'm not leaking air, and it's always comforting to look down and see that you've got a good air supply. So this regulator could leak air. So in this junction right here, where I extended the line so that it reaches my mouth when I'm sitting, I will just put a small mini ball valve right here. So in a smoke situation, I just hold my breath for a moment, open this valve completely and open that valve completely, and just let the air blast. Don't worry about nothing, just let it blast, and the submarine will start heading to the surface as fast as the submarine can travel. And then I open the mini ball valve, and this will be sitting right here, so it's really easy to reach while I'm piloting the submarine. So I just grab this, open the mini ball valve, and start breathing this so I don't have to breathe the smoke. So it's all very good. The system is good. I'm quite pleased with how this is all working. I've already air tested all that. It's all good. I just wasn't worried about this because it's only turned on in an emergency. And the emergency in most cases would be minor. Like, minor is the wrong word. No panic. So unless you have smoke, you don't have to panic. So with the air tanks in the back, always charged, ready to go, turned on, under normal circumstances, I could just open the valves and the sub would surface because I have the rear air supply, but that's missing now. That's why this tank has to be on all the time. Normally it wouldn't be on, because like I said, it's just for ditching or if I lost all that air. But in those, like I said, in those circumstances, I can breathe in here for hours without life support, without worrying about it. So, and also this sub's not diving that deep that a ditch is very doable for me. Navy SEALs, they can ditch from great depths, but as you can see, I am no Navy SEAL, so I'm pretty confident with a 100-foot ditch, but that would be the limit for me to attempt a ditch. And I'm not a panicky type of guy, so I'm not too worried about that. I usually stay pretty cool in panic situations. So anyways, like I said, I got to put this plug in, play around with that. That'll be kind of a fun little project, which will take all of half an hour. And I'm going to chain this thing to the trailer, hook it back up to the truck, because right now it's on my hitch extender steering hitch system, which by the way I'm so happy with. And then I will get my inflatable boat ready, and we have a date for diving, or not diving, sorry. We have a launch date, which is Monday. I think today's Wednesday, isn't it? Anyways, so I'm going to launch Monday. The reason I'm launching Monday is my son is available to come and help me. My wife is quite concerned if I go and launch this by myself. She's not too worried if I go play around with the submarine alone, but launching, you can trip and fall and the truck can run over you, and all kinds of things can happen because it's a complicated process, especially at that spot with that maneuverability. And hopefully with this extender it'll go in easy. And I've never had a problem there. I've always launched there just fine. By myself, it's no problem. But this thing is 10,000 pounds. It's a big deal. So having help is important, just in case something happens. So he's available Monday to come with me. And also the weather is not so hot, and it's going to be rainy. So what that means is, first of all, I love doing this in the rain. It's just relaxing for me. And it's nice and cool. And it keeps the people away. So there's going to be nobody on the lake, nobody messing around because it's going to be a rainy day. I mean, there might be the odd fisherman, but they don't care about what I'm doing. So I'll have the lake to myself pretty much. And actually the fishermen are on the other side of the lake anyways. So that's the plan. Monday, first thing in the morning, we head to the lake and we launch this thing. Then, after it's launched, I don't know if I'm going to cruise it around or not, depending on how much time my son has to spend. I may go for a little cruise on the surface, but then the following day I'll go back alone, and I will bring my inflatable boat and I will tow the boat around the lake for the day, and I'll just run it all day long on the surface, and just put time on the clock to expose any vulnerabilities with the drive and the engine and all that, just to confirm it's reliable. And then from there, the following day, or even maybe on the next day, I will start to submerge the submarine, not a dive, but just a submerge to make sure that the weight is correct, so that my buddy Brian, he's this world-class diver guy. Holy cow, this guy's amazing. They dive 365 feet deep. Jesus. Anyways, he's going to come out and help me do the first pressure test. So I'll sink the submarine with nobody in it, of course, and I'll just stack weights on the deck and on the back to force it to sink. And then Brian will go down and remove weights. So we'll do two. First, we'll send it down and bring it right back up. And what the purpose of that is it'll expose any leaks under pressure, because I have no way of pressure testing it for leaks. So I don't think it'll leak, but so that's the first test. And then we send it back down for 1 hour. That's the rule. That's the ABS rule for certifying a submarine for use, not certifying for qualifying it for use, because this is not certified. So you have to submerge it 1.5 times the operating depth for 1 hour. So it'll sit on the bottom for 1 hour, and then Brian will knock the weights off, or I can even tie weight to a rope and just pull it off, and then we'll bring it to the surface. And after that, then I can start diving. Now, if Brian is not available, then I may just go to the shallow end of the lake where it's 10 feet deep, and I'll just dive at 10 feet and just play around diving it. That's very likely to happen as well. I don't know. But I'm comfortable diving at 10 feet. I mean, if something goes wrong at 10 feet, I can basically just step out of it. So that's the plan. Monday we dive. Monday we launch. That's pretty exciting. So I'm going to clean up these little projects and then get my inflatable ready and my hip waders and all the stuff I need to launch, and we'll get at it. So, ciao for now.